And welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the break. Lovely nibbles of the hakao siu mai and of course that lychee cake. Just something to energize us for the next half of today. Now, we're going to be proceeding on to the next presentation on maximizing operational efficiency through robust energy management framework. And to tell us more, may I now invite Mr. Tong Yong Kun, Director, Sustainability CNW Services Private Limited, to deliver the presentation. Mr. Tong, please.
Yep, thank you. I hope you all can hear me. Good afternoon to all. So, energy management is not a new topic. In fact, I think there are a lot of veterans sitting here because we have been through the regime of Energy Conservation Act in Singapore, right? So it's not a new topic. But I think it's still a solid foundation for energy efficiency improvement. So today, let's take some time to revisit some of the points related to energy management system. Just to give a bit of context about the organization, why energy management is important to CNW services, right? I'll just briefly share, we are a FM company, facility management company. So we manage a lot of government properties. This includes public and private sector where they have aspirations related to green gov targets that we need to support them. And we are the people that are on the ground working on the equipments and efficiency to help them to reach the green aspirations, right? So sustainability has always been in our DNA. So we were the first FM company to be accredited as a ESCO. And we were the founding members for Singapore Green Building Council. So we are rated as a tier 1 in terms of environmental sustainability services. So, this gives credit to the energy efficiency projects that we have done and also the green building certification that we have supported our clients in. And aside from sustainability services, one of the key pillars that we recognize for energy efficiency is actually procurement consulting. We understand the pressure from energy costs. That's why we have a business as well to support companies in energy costs and also transition to green energy. Yep. Back to the topic itself on the energy management framework, I thought we could have a look on the landscape of Singapore, right? So this is a 2022 research done for industrial energy efficiency in Singapore. So if you could look at the red line, so it represents the total consumption for the industrial sector in Singapore. And you can see it has been rapidly rising. There are variable factors related to this rise. But one point to highlight is from 2013, you do see something going downwards. That is the green line. And that is actually the industry energy intensity, right? So we do see strong improvement in energy intensity in the industrial sector. And as a whole, it kind of negates the rise in energy total effect in the whole sector itself. Yeah, and I think coincidentally, this is the time where Energy Conservation Act started. A lot of companies during that time, we had to adopt, employ a full-time energy manager. He has to be trained and accredited. And then we have to do yearly submissions to the government as well. But those were the time where we also get to enjoy a lot of incentives and related to energy audits and energy efficiency improvement. Right, so that is the past, but I think the challenge ahead is how we can still maintain this momentum to support Singapore net zero targets, right? So it's important for us to look at it as challenges and opportunities. First, definitely is the rising cost. We have carbon tax, geopolitical tension. This is driving up energy costs, and it put a lot of pressure on businesses. We have regulatory pressure. We talked about earlier about MES, MEI for commercial sector. We have sustainability goals. Singapore has its net zero aspiration. That are the challenges, right? But we have opportunities as well. We are based in Singapore. The government is very proactive in terms of innovation and technology adaptation, right? So these are things that we could leverage on to drive ourselves to be more competitive because as a manufacturing in an industrial, there are companies in other countries that can do it much cheaper than us. So we have to be on our toes in terms of energy management. This is a very lengthy slide, but this is typically how we approach a topic for energy management. We always start with benchmarking. It's just to assess where you are at the moment. You could compare against yourself, against your sister company or your competitors if you have access to the information, right? But if you don't have, one of the advice I would give is actually to look into Singapore standards. There are very prescriptive standards in terms of lighting, air conditioning, mechanical ventilation efficiency. So that could be a good starting point. I would also encourage people on headquarter level or regional level to set organization-wide energy efficiency targets rather than to look at standalone asset, right? So this is something that you could do. And based on the organization net zero or sustainability commitment, right, you could set short-term and long-term targets, right? So to drive momentum towards your action plan. Without concrete study of the system itself, you will never be able to understand the potential. So audit itself is something that is very crucial to understand where the inefficiencies are. Sub-metering is something that has come down a lot in cost as well. So we should widely adopt this part. You could employ an ESCO to do auditing, but I would strongly also urge companies to empower your team to do like energy treasure hunts to understand, because these people are full-time on the ground, so they will be able to understand the equipment better than ESCOs. And for initiative implementation, I just highlight a few points. I would say it's not only cost-benefit analysis, but the environmental part has to come into play. So when we set concrete environmental targets, we need to measure the environmental performance. The last part I will touch on is in terms of energy performance contracting. I have a case study later to share. And once you have done all this, it's really time to look into the performance in terms of your energy efficiency improvement measures, your organization performance dashboarding, and also to drive awareness with your management stakeholders, right? Reporting, disclosing the figures, let them understand the challenges as well so that they could support you. I just bring up two examples related to energy performance tracking. So on the left, you can see in terms of organization or company, right? These are the figures that you could see. So one key highlight to see is actually there is anomalies. What is the contributing factor for it? Could it be process defects or could it be climate? Singapore has been experiencing a lot of heat waves, etc., right? But it's important for energy managers or the team to understand these anomalies. The other point that I will highlight is also in terms of the base static load. Every plant has a static load because you need lighting services, you need cooling services, right? So you need to think about how you could trim this static load. So these are the action points that you could work on. And on the right, you could see more related to energy efficiency improvement. So this case is related to an air-cooled chiller that we have done some energy efficiency improvement. And we know that air-cooled chiller, one of the key factors for performance is the ambient temperature, right? So we kind of do a regression analysis before and after to really understand how much savings this energy efficiency improvement brought about. So you probably need some data to drive insights in terms of energy use and improvement. I wouldn't go through too much in detail about this ISO management system, but I do recall 10 years ago in Singapore, there is only a handful of companies that has adopted this. But in recent time, I do hear that there are many, many companies that has been fully on board. I guess one of the reasons is also related to the Energy Conservation Act, where if you have this adopted, then you will be subjected to less scrutiny. But I think there is important points in terms of this ISO management system. I will just highlight 2 points. The first point is related to leadership. I think it's very important for leaders to demonstrate our commitment to sustainability and net zero. So we need to have a very strong policy and it need to be quantifiable and tangible. Yeah. The second part is related to operation in terms of when we consider design changes, improvement or A&A works, right? We always need to take in consideration the impact of energy. So then we can account for it when we start to review the energy performance. The last part I will highlight is also in terms of green procurement. It is not something new, but I think companies should make sure that we have a very robust standards or guidelines in terms of green procurement. For example, if you were to replace an air conditioning system, it should be minimum 4 or 5 ticks, right? Then we start to talk about cost itself. rather than just to look at it from a costing perspective. And energy performance could be something that you could look into to compare against investment costs, etc. So this is the overview of the framework. But I think the key point today I would like to bring across is actually the operating model. We know the process, it has been there for very long, but the people are the one that drives management system, right? So how does the different stakeholder in the management system interact? It's not by me, but I have found it to be very useful, and I always share this practice. So from the top, you have the top management, right? They need to set the business direction, and they need to set the sustainability goals that the team can work toward. Without this direction, nothing will get moving, right? But you can see in terms of the energy manager, he has the most color or bands around him. He's the one that will be carrying a lot of burden to drive this system. So that's why the top management needs to be aware through reporting in terms of energy performance, look to understand the challenges that these energy managers are facing. And I also emphasize a point related to team. It's not a one-man person, and where this energy manager sits is very important. He should not be sitting in, like what earlier mentioned, somewhere in the back of house or something. He should have access to the top management, and this will allow companies to overcome roadblocks in terms of energy efficiency or deficiency, I would say. Then we look into the stakeholder on the right, the head of departments. They are crucial members or stakeholders to be considered, right? So they are running their process, they are running their production, and they should be held accountable for energy use within their facility. It should not be an energy manager where he has little influence over energy use in some parts of the area. And from a bottom-up perspective, we have the experts. We can leverage on their knowledge of the system to drive energy efficiency improvement, and also the other employees as well, how we could train them, motivate them, and drive awareness. It could be like energy treasure hunt I highlighted, or even suggestion schemes as well to recognize them for finding energy inefficiency. So I wouldn't spend too much time on this slide, but this is more related to production improvement. There are a lot of methodologies related to it. I always feel that the production people should hold more accountability in energy management. A lot of pressure are put onto the utility folks, right? But in terms of utility, it's only, I'll say maybe 30–40% in general for industrial. So I would advise, from production point of view to look into tools like value stream mapping. Historically, industrial, they only look at raw material, but energy will be something to factor in so that you could start to identify and eliminate waste. Just in time as well, I will share an example later, where idling time is one of the key energy wastages for a process. And of course, we have Kaizen in terms of employee engagement, driving focus improvement activities and events. Yep, so straight to the case study. This is related to an energy saving project for FMCG company, right? You could imagine there is a lot of goods flow between these premises. So they have a manufacturing facility and they have a warehouse. And currently, previously the goods were transported by LPG forklifts. And this transportation path is very inefficient, right? And with transportation of this path, it also has risk related to traffic. There's a lot of traffic between the buildings, safety concern. And LPG as well, we know is highly flammable, so you need a place to store it. So these are some of the key concerns that they have. Then they started to look into a conveyor system to have a very direct connection between the warehouse and the production facility. So this, in a way, not only improves productivity, but actually one of the key benefits it brings about is also energy efficiency. So rather than, to electrify the forklifts, right? By going this way, you will really get a more efficient use of energy. Lastly is also the safety aspect, where we talk about LPG storage and also traffic risk. So when we did this study with the client itself, right, we not only look into cost-benefit analysis, so we considered the safety aspect and also the productivity aspect. So that's why I mentioned earlier that we cannot solely depend on cost-benefit analysis, and we have to look at it from a multifaceted standpoint. Yep, and I have my last section today, last two slides, more about energy performance contracting. We hear a lot earlier from the speakers as well, but I would just want to share the benefit about EPC model. So essentially, it allows ESCO to provide a turnkey solution to implement energy-saving measures with guaranteed results. So how does it help companies is actually transfer the complexities and the risk of energy optimization to the expert. So most of the ESCOs, we have been in the industry for very long, or it could be like district cooling, right? These are infrastructure companies that has been operating cooling for a very long time. So as a small company, you may not have access to knowledge and expertise, and you could use this way to offset this risk and rely on professionals to support you. It's nothing new. Cooling has been around for very long, but recently in the market, we do see like energy as a service comes in the form of controls. Lighting as well is very prevalent. Renewables as well as solar energy. Something that is coming is also compressed air that we start to see in the sector. So end of the day, the benefits that it brings, as a provider, we support end-to-end project execution and management. We guarantee performance, and we provide maintenance as well. So essentially, the life cycle part is covered. And in the case of loss savings, if the contracted performance is not met, it puts the accountability on the provider itself, the ESCO itself, to meet the performance. So we have to pay a penalty for it. Yep. So this is the last slide that I have for today. It's just a case study to showcase how we did energy performance contracting, right? So it's a few years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. So this was for a client when they were struggling to meet green mark requirement. And during that time, the chiller were not too old, and it just doesn't make sense to retrofit a chiller, right? So when we come in, we did the audit for them. We start to recognize that the chiller were not performing because the condition has deteriorated. So we recommended them to do a partial overhaul and repair of the chiller to restore the performance. The other thing that we did is with technology as well. We look into optimization strategy. We put in an energy management system so that the chiller sequencing can be in a more robust and ideal manner, right? Based on demand side rather than trying to fix everything on a fixed setting. So in a way, we come in to guarantee them a certain performance, and from that performance, they will know that what are the savings that they will be able to get, and there will be a very clear cost-saving benefit analysis as well. And in the end, we managed to achieve more savings in terms of efficiency. So the client actually get more savings out of this contract. So I think this is the benefit or beauty of energy performance contracting. It's a bit of collaboration we heard earlier, financing as well. Together as a whole, we make this happen. Yeah. With that, I have come to the end of the sharing. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to connect with you guys. If you have any questions or pointers, happy to hear more. Thank you.